Elise Long and Jim Masterson. And we wanted to talk more about the Masterson method, which I'm sure you all heard of, but I don't know if you know as much about it. And we want to encourage you to learn a lot more about the Masterson method. And here is, if you guys aren't putting two and two together, which I'm sure you have because you've heard us say this stuff a million times, but the brain is what operates all of it. And it does the physical and the emotional. You don't pull them apart. They can't pull apart. We've talked about the first thing we say if you ever have a behavioral change or a problem behavior, you've got to do physical check first. And we also say what you really need is a good body worker, because that's where you're going to get more information than anything. But it's because it affects so much of the emotional component, and so the physical affects the emotion and can create behavior changes, but behavior also affects the physical and can create, if they brace in their mind, they brace in their body.
Yeah.
And so we want to address all of that and look at that. And the Masterson method is a great way to learn how to connect further with your horses, to understand more about your horses, where place and where they are. And so that's what we're here to do, is to learn so much more about this fabulous method. And Elise is the Masterson. We worked with her in Florida, and that's where we really kind of connected and loved it. She worked with her horses, and we had
Yeah.
her come here and teach people. So now we have the both of them together. So welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So
interesting because lately a lot of that what you're talking about has been coming together for me, anyways, with the different people I'm meeting. And I've been doing clinics with Dr. Peters and Mark for a few years, and it's all about the same nervous system, whether the horse is training and learning or releasing tension. It's the same nervous system, and I think even more so than humans, because as humans we have that little record. I used to say humans always have a little record playing in the back of their head, whether they know it or not. So, if you're doing something like the bladder meridian technique on a horse, it's a direct connection. You go over a spot, you see a blink, you wait there until the nervous system lets that tension go. But with a human, it's different because we have a little record playing in the back of our head. Oh, what is he doing? Oh, is this really going to work? I got to take the car in next week, to get the oil changed and all that. But with a horse, there's none of that. It's a
yeah,
direct connection. So it's the same for me, physical issues in the body are even more connected in the horse's brain, that
yeah,
it's, yeah. I mean, they are with humans too, but we don't recognize it always because we're busy, thinking.
yeah.
And then Dr. Peters, he explains how that all works. It's just really fascinating.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
to get to meeting Dr. Peter somewhere along the way. But
Mhm.
and I think it really a super important thing that when the horses are always present, and
Mhm.
we are not, we're busy thinking, what was I supposed to do? And even if it's trying to do what they're doing, it's
Mhm.
still, it's not watching the horse as much as it is running through, what did I learn at that clinic, or
Mhm.
what did the book say, or
Yeah.
and to really remind and help people stay present.
Mhm.
And I think it's important. So I just
Mhm.
want to hear you talk and share with us about
Oh.
things.
Well, once you get me going, you can't stop me. So
Good.
if there's this a mute button, you can hit it if I keep going on. But another one thing, Dr. Peters, there's a whole nother dimension to that. I think one thing that Dr. Peters talks about is the horse is carrying all of their past experience, their I guess programming in their brain, all of their all of their experiences wired into their brain, whether good or bad. So when people say, and I used to say this too, that the horses they're always in the present moment. And Dr. Peters says that's not necessarily true strictly in the strict sense, because they have all of their past experience
Yeah.
programmed in their brain, and so they're bringing that with them. So when you're with the horse and they're there with you, right? They're present and you're working with the horse, body work wise, anyways. They're there with you, but they have all that past programming along with it.
Yeah.
So he says that from his perspective, it's not entirely true that they're in the present, but I think they are in the present, but they have that. they're always looking, they always want to feel safe. So he says they have a false positive bias. If they see something that they don't know what it is, they assume immediately it's a predator. So
Yeah.
that's always there with them. But something else came up in this last clinic because um, Mark Rasha talks about how they're in the horses are really good at making connections, and
Hmm.
humans are really good at looking for connections. But as humans, horses are waiting for the connection, and humans are kind of like they're seeking connection, but they miss that when the horse is ready to connect. They miss that. It's like in training. Sometimes you're asking the horse to do something, and the horse gets it, but we miss that they get it. So we keep trying. We keep trying to over and over again, and the horse gets confused. Well, I thought this is what you wanted, and I was giving it to you, but you missed it. So
Yeah.
there's a space in there for that the horse has. They're really ready to connect with you. So they are in the moment in that sense. They're ready to connect with you, but they still have this whole history that they have with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That
Mhm.
totally makes sense. And it is kind of like the reinforcement history. Everything that has kept them safe is
Okay.
needing to come
Mhm.
forward. How do I figure out how to stay safe? But they're
Yeah.
here now looking,
They're
but it's a
here
good point.
ready. Yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah.
ready. So it was really interesting distinction for me on this class. Every time, I think I've done 3 of these clinics with Dr. Peters and Mark, and the 3 of us together. And every time I do it, I get something new, and that was the takeaway for me this time.
Okay, and I love that.
Uh,
And I think that it is the same things, the subtleties that you're looking for when you're
mhm,
doing the body work and looking for
mhm,
them to be responding to your trying to help them relax and find their safe place and their
yeah.
comfortable place.
Mhm,
It's there's so many subtle things that people miss also in training. People think of
mhm,
horses over threshold as for example when they
mhm.
strike and rear. And you're like, no, they were over threshold when their chin went pointy,
Yeah,
or
right.
whenever
Yeah.
little tension came in, but they
Yeah,
didn't.
and they're trying to find what it is you want,
Yeah,
right? They want
right.
to
And
find what it is
they're
you
trying to
want.
communicate. Yeah.
I
Mhm,
think that's one of our biggest roles in teaching. It has been teaching people how to recognize the smallest nuances of what the horse is saying to us. And I think that we
mhm,
have a huge parallel with that with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah.
Elise,
Uh,
could you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Elise to kind of speak to what she observed, what she worked here with some of our horses. And full disclaimer, our horses, they do a lot of days where people come in and work with them with positive reinforcement. And so when
Mhm.
they see a group of people come in, they're super, super excited. Like they get off the charts.
Like, I'm
I'll
next.
tell
I'm
you.
Oh,
next.
oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay,
So
so
she had
yeah,
some
I can
special
see that.
challenges there.
Well, that's
And
not what she told me. She told me they were all a mess.
A little bit of a mess. Sometimes they were so excited that they were like, when are we going to do it? They
No, that's
didn't know how to
interesting. That's
relax.
interesting. Yeah, so they're ready
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
learn. They're ready to
Yeah.
yeah.
learn.
I,
And yeah.
I definitely found when we were working with the horses, and even when I was evaluating them before the course, that we would do the thing and they were looking for, did I do it correctly? They were constantly, I felt
Mhm,
like they were constantly, what I will do it, just tell me what to do. Did I get it right? It was, it was very different as far as I guess it was this seeking, am I doing this correctly? And
Mhm.
they weren't muggy or nippy like you think, a lot of people think
yeah.
when you teach horses with, food that, they're going to be really bitey, nippy. They weren't that at all. They were just trying to and I talked to Jessie about it. They were trying to problem solve.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's
you're doing
cool.
this. What do you want me to do? Trying to figure it out. They
Mhm,
did beautifully. They released the tension. They showed all the typical responses that we would see. But it was just another element of they're really trying to partner with us.
mhm,
Instead of just responding, they're wanting to also do the thing.
mhm,
So that was a new experience for me. I have worked with other horses that have been, uh, you know, rewards been used in their training, but not, as well trained as these horses are in it. So it was a
mhm.
really great experience for
Did
me
you find
too.
did you find that if say we'll use the bladder meridian for example because that's kind of the one of the anyways say you're doing the bladder meridian, you're searching really lightly, and I don't know if you all know how this works, but you just go down the body, anywhere on the body, but just with barely any pressure, just touching the hair, and you're searching for where the horse might be holding tension, but you're not using any pressure, because if you use any pressure, the horse internally braces against it. So if you go light enough and search the body, and the horse will give you some subtle response, like a blink or lip twitch or something, that they're feeling something there. And if you wait long enough, then the nervous system will go from protecting it to letting it go. So did you find that it took them a little longer to figure out that you were just waiting for them to release the tension, Elise? Or
Not necessarily. I think more than anything, they were checking in more than
okay.
a typical horse would do.
They weren't
You know,
trying to
I
block
would
it out as much,
no more. I don't think no more than any other horse
Oh,
would,
okay.
but they
Okay.
were always checking in. Am I okay? Is this okay?
Okay. Yeah.
That sort of thing. But they did show all the same responses, the same
Okay. That's good.
releases, the same amount of time that it might take.
Mhm.
For us to hold that one spot where we find a blink, except that they were checking in more often,
Yeah, that's
which I
interesting. Yeah.
thought was, it was very interesting to me that they were doing that quite a bit. They were very, very much engaged. I don't think I recall a horse really trying to just block everything out
Yeah.
mentally. They
Mhm.
were always, engaged to an extent. Now, sometimes they might get over
Means
processed
that
like any
you're
other horse does,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's significant, because um, that means, to me, it means that you're doing a good job in positive reinforcement, because like some horses, they're treat crazy, right? And it's hard to do, but I mean, you got to do the body work is a little difficult, because they're you know what I mean. But
Right.
your horses were the horses you were working on were aware of what's going on in their body as you're doing it. So
I think we have
Yeah.
we work towards a lot of um, confidence, so I think they're not worried about people,
mhm.
so I think they're kind of like, we don't have a lot of trauma we're bagging around
Yeah,
here, I think
yeah,
a lot of horses bring some from somewhere, whatever they've
yeah.
been through,
Mhm.
but they're very confident that way, but I could see that I was injured and couldn't be out there, but I could see them being very, like, they love problem solving. You were a big giant
Mhm.
crossword puzzle to them.
Mhm.
And they're like, what's the
Yes.
Oh,
answer?
okay, a whole
I
new
love the
experience.
answer.
Like,
The answer.
what do you
Yes.
want? What do you want me to? What are you looking for me to do? Well, nothing. Just
Yes,
releasing
right.
tension. Yeah, but they were
And
looking
I,
for like a little different. Yeah.
yes, and I think they love being problem solvers. So
Mhm.
they get engaged into, this is fun for me, that you are
Yeah.
environmental enrichment and I'm here
Hmm.
to experience it.
Hmm.
But
Yes. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
you're too much of one thing, because we tell people say, I would
Yeah.
love to have a baby that was raised with positive reinforcement. I was kind of like, you're
Hmm.
going to have a really confident baby with different issues to work through. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
okay,
Right.
stop just wandering all over the place and loving it all.
It
Yeah.
highlighted
Yeah.
for me because I was out. Sorry, Elise.
Oh,
Um,
go ahead.
it highlighted for me because I was out there watching all of it. The need for more Masterson method, because they don't need to be turned on and seeking, trying to find the answer all the time. But I feel like it's another addition for them to have to develop connection with humans,
Yeah.
as well as obviously releasing their tension and,
Hmm.
working on their bodies.
Yeah.
And we talk to people a lot about the point that not everything should be a training session and be
Yes.
this activated seeking system. I think the group of people triggered that part,
Yeah.
Hmm.
that I'm going to try to overthink it a little bit. But
Hmm.
it's a good reminder to work on that settling and that relaxing and that quiet time and being sure they're not
Hmm.
just kind of, we don't want manic. That's the point. We don't
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
want manic, whether it's
Hmm.
about food or even just always training.
Yeah. Well, one of the byproducts of doing this type of body work, as it turned out, because when I started, I was working on hunter jumpers, and that's where I actually learned how to do this, what was going on with the horse, and so it was about improving movement and performance in the horse. Releasing tension that's restricting movement and performance. But it turns out that the byproduct is that we slow way down and to pay attention to what the horse is telling us, either visually or palpably, as we're asking for movement through different parts of the body. We learn to calm our mind down and just see what's going on with the horse rather than trying to get something. You can't have an agenda when you're doing this type of body work, any agenda, or it's not going to work. The horse is going to pick up on your agenda, and then it's going to interfere with the process of them feeling what's going on in their body. So
Yeah.
it settles the horse down and it settles you down.
Yeah. I think it's so important. One of the things that at SeaWorld, because working at SeaWorld, one of the things that people don't realize, they get all their food each and every day. They're not doing it for the food.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
doing it for the game and the fun, because
Mm-hmm.
they can just swim away and go get their own food, so
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but we're stimulation, and this is fun for them, and they like it. So our goal is always make it fun. But if you come
Mm-hmm.
in with that agenda, they're like, you don't feel fun right now. And it's the
Right.
same with the horses. You come in, people can be smiling, but you're like, you got
Yeah.
somewhere there that the horse is leaving you,
Yeah.
kind of. So I think that's so important.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
and they're super tuned into how we feel all the time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that, do you guys do things to help people with their own physical relaxation and helping the person to be in the moment and not in, a textbook, or what kind of,
Nah,
getting too
they're on their own. Nah.
Figure it out.
No, it's interesting because if we're teaching a class or a course and we have all kinds of people come in, and some are very calm and relaxed, and they're just they're not goal oriented, and some people are very goal oriented. So those are the ones where they keep questioning, like, is it working? Am I doing it right? Or how come the horse isn't releasing? And they're going, and other people are just, everybody's different. So, but just the process of doing it is what calms you down. You can say, if you have any agenda in your mind, it's gonna, the horse is gonna pick up on it, and it's gonna just kind of internally block it out. You can say that to somebody, but if they're really goal oriented and they understand it, but they can't do it. But you know what I mean? Because that's
Yes.
the thing. But if they do it enough and they start getting these responses and releases from the horse, then they start to get it. Oh, I really don't have to do anything. All I have to do is the technique, and you're just bringing the horse's awareness to where it's holding tension in the body and allowing it to release it. Then that's what makes them kind of settle down and finally get it. Do you know what I mean, Elise? Like some
Yeah.
of your students,
Yeah.
it's like, they're so goal oriented, and then they finally get that they're goal oriented, after enough
Right.
of experience of the horse releasing tension, and then they get it, and they start to. It happens organically. You can't like teach them. You can't
Yeah.
make somebody relax.
Yeah.
Relax. Doesn't work.
What do we say about the horses too? You can't sit there and go relax,
Yeah.
because the horse always
Right.
worked up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
And Jim always says you have to be out of your mind to do this work. And it's true. If you just relax your mind, which is one of the hardest things for me in my entire life, is for my brain just to relax and slow down. And I think that's what makes me love this work so much, is because I feel like that's the only time I'm in the present moment and I'm relaxed.
Mhm.
And so you just let your brain kind of fall out of your head, and it just flows, and the horse all of a sudden, responds and starts letting tension go. And it's a big reflection on us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
So,
picked this up pretty quickly, Elise. So you're not too wacko in your head. Wait, is that
well, I
my outside?
appreciate that.
Is that my outside voice? I'm sorry.
Or maybe my brain's so little it just falls out
Oh
easily.
yeah,
Who
that
knows?
is.
But
Yeah.
but
But
it
then
works. So that's
yeah,
all I
it
care
works.
about.
And then the next thing is, when you start adding the movement technique. So you're going through the horse's body and you're asking for movement in a relaxed state. For example, starting at the pole, and then in the atlas, and you're gently, wiggling your way down the vertebra of the neck. And then if you hit it, and it's got to be relaxed movement. And when you hit a spot where there might be tension, in the muscles or connective tissue of a joint or junction, then as you ask for movement in a relaxed state, they'll feel that and they'll tense. And then you have to soften when they tense, and that helps them release it. So
Right.
you have to change from what what's going on in your brain. I'm sounding a little too scientific here, but no, I
No,
don't
it's
have to worry
good.
about that. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen. But anyways, they go from in their head, they go from watching the horse and observing and waiting for the horse to release, to learning how to do that with your feel, right? You run into resistance, you soften. It just happens. You learn how to soften, and that allows the horse to release that physical tension. And then you continue on down, through the body. But it transfers from settling your mind down to into your feel, your sense of feel, learning how to soften when you
Right.
feel resistance coming up.
And then the person
Okay.
gets reinforced, you
Yeah,
know?
it becomes
For
automatic
sure.
after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you kind of go, well, that worked. I just do it this
Mhm.
way. And it's because
Mhm.
it really is with the positive reinforcement too, they get that analysis paralysis where
Mhm.
they start
Oh
getting,
yeah.
you're like, and I know sometimes the science-based things drive people to think more dogmatic, more
Mhm.
mechanical about
Mhm.
it all. And you're like,
Yeah.
easy does it. Little children are really good at positive reinforcement because you give them the concepts and you
Yeah.
push them out there and they're very much just playing with their horse, and they're not busy getting agendaed and
Yeah.
overcritical and analytical.
Yeah. It happens a little more organically.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
not an intellectual thing. And
Yeah,
so
and
yeah. And so if you're
if you
doing it
want to change,
properly,
sorry,
yeah. No, you go ahead.
go ahead, Jen.
No,
Oh, I was gonna say,
I usually dominate the conversation, so I'm gonna I'm gonna soften and
Soften.
take a deep breath.
take deep breaths, do all your relax, yeah, all your
Okay, go
softening
ahead.
checklist there, Jim.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that with the Masterson method, I think what I love the most about it is, and it's pretty much this way in every aspect of horsemanship, is to change the horse, we have to change ourselves first.
Mhm.
The horse is not going to change unless we change ourselves first. So Jim was talking about doing the movement techniques and feeling the tension. And if we feel, if the horse is bracing, and they're going to keep bracing unless we relax and change ourselves.
Mhm.
And the faster we can learn to do that and get that feel down, it really affects your entire life. And you just learn that, the softer you are with things, the better the outcome. And
Mhm.
to change things around us, we have to change ourselves first.
Well, I
Yeah,
So,
think the similarities between the positive reinforcement, which is when doing the way you do it, because obviously it's working because the horse isn't, like you said, if the horse is getting manic then about food, then it's not working. Then
yeah,
it's not.
right.
But the more it's interesting because like we're looking for feedback from the horse, but the horse is getting feedback from us, whether in positive reinforcement or body work. The horse is getting feedback from us, and if they're getting the correct feedback, then we're doing it right. If we're getting what we're looking for in the horse, then obviously the horse is getting the feedback from us that we're doing it right, and then
Yeah,
it works, right?
yeah.
It goes both ways.
I really love it. And it is really the holistic approach to the horse.
Mhm.
We want all of it to be well. And
Mhm.
it needs physical and it needs emotional, which means the brain has to be there. And we can do that. And I think so many
Mhm.
people want to think we're in a world with a lot of people that really want to control things. And I
Mhm.
think horses being large can
Mhm.
create this kind of little
Yeah,
bit of fear in there. So then people
yeah,
like, he's disrespecting you. And then they get kind of, a little heavy handed or trying to control when
yeah,
we want a partner. We want
mhm,
a true partner that is there and
exactly.
chooses to be there
yeah,
and that nickers when we pull the saddle out, that
mhm.
isn't thinking, oh, not the saddle, I'm leaving,
Now
you
what?
know.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it means giving up, but it really means meeting them in the middle, doesn't it?
mhm, yeah.
It does.
If you're
I,
bracing with the body work, if we're bracing at all, then it's not working because it's got to be
Hmm.
relaxed movement for the
Yeah.
nervous system, the horse's nervous system to feel where the tension is. The movement you're asking for them has to be relaxed because, for example, they can bend their own neck but and come around, to whatever degree they can. But when we go down and move the vertebra of the neck, for example, in a relaxed state, that's where we find the tension because they're not protecting it. If they can use all of the other muscles except the tight one, the one that's tight, use all the other muscles to move. But when you ask for them to move in a relaxed state, that's when they feel the tense muscles. And then,
Right.
so they can move in a braced state easily, but it's when you ask them to move in an unbraced state that where they feel the tension and then you can allow them to release it. I forgot why I'm going down this path. It had something to do with what we were talking about, but
Jim, you and I are a lot alike. I tell people in the clinic, you got to interrupt me because you won't get a break.
yeah,
And and I a lot of times go, what was I saying?
yeah, right. Yeah, where were we going with this?
And I just go with it
Yeah,
because that's
mhm,
how it is.
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I think it's a long, long, long time ago. I remember getting Hunter Jumper. He had won, Madison Square Garden's really
Mhm,
big things, heavily campaigned, and but he had a lot of stiffness in him. And it was, I mean, I'm talking 27 years ago. So I,
Mhm.
was figuring things out, but I remember they would stretch him.
Mhm.
So it's, but you could feel when you stretched, he wouldn't relax. You were
Mhm.
pulling.
Yeah.
And so with the positive reinforcement, I'd wait till I feel him physically soften. And
Mhm.
pretty soon he's really
Yeah.
letting me do it because he's soft.
Yeah.
And then pretty
Mhm.
soon he's doing it himself without me touching.
Then he'd do the
It's
stretch on
genuine.
his own. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but you needed, you sometimes see people doing things. And you're thinking, I'm not sure this is, mechanically it may look like you're thinking, but I think
Yeah.
probably
Well,
relaxation and really,
stretching isn't bad. Stretching is a good thing to do. I don't want people to not stretch their horse, but start like doing what you're describing, feeling as the horse is releasing toward, into the stretch is going to make it
yes,
more effective. Yeah.
right. That you actually are, you're letting it go as opposed
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
fighting it. When I think sometimes people don't always know the difference if they can't pay attention to those or recognize or understand.
Recognize.
That's
Yeah.
why I
Just
think,
recognize it. Yeah.
yes, that's what I think everybody should be learning more about. And when we get to Florida next year, Elise, I want to spend more time with you because
Mhm.
I couldn't go
Absolutely.
outside that weepy. I would sit on the porch. And, oh, look, they're doing stuff. But the, but the, that everybody should learn more about recognizing these pieces of the horse and being able to help your
Mhm.
own horse physically. I think
Mhm.
that if you can stop and pay attention for a moment, you're going to
Mhm.
get so much more information than
Yeah.
if you don't. If you're not in touch with how they are
Yeah.
physically and starting to recognize those little nuances because it is so important. And which comes first, the chicken or the egg? We don't always know,
Hmm.
because the physical may be braced because of something that
Yeah. It
happened
goes.
before.
Yeah.
They,
It's not one or the other necessarily.
yeah,
You
you
know.
don't necessarily know. So you
Hmm.
need to address both pieces, I think. And all of it
Hmm.
helps you to be a better horseman when
Hmm.
you can really stop and pay attention to your horse and all
Yeah.
those
And so,
nuances. And
yeah, and sometimes you just need a little help learning what to look for,
yeah,
and then you go from there. So the more feedback that you get from the horse, the better it's going to help anything you're doing with the horse. If
and
you're
so much.
Yeah.
They're
Mhm.
giving us so much information, and I think we don't always we
Yeah.
haven't been taught how to see it,
Yeah.
just to notice
See
that
it
we got
or yeah, to see it or feel it, physically feel
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's where I think it's fabulous. So I think it's something that I
And
really think everybody should learn more
yeah, and
about.
plus the physical benefits for your horse. We don't know sometimes where they're not moving or where they're stuck, and where they may be uncomfortable, or there's pain and or discomfort in the horse, and then we talk about it. There's pain and restriction. So sometimes the horse isn't moving a certain way because it's painful, like
Right.
however they're whatever you're asking them to do, and sometimes it's because it's just restricted, it's stiff, like things have tightened up, and there's a lack of range of motion, or in the muscle, so that's not sore, it's just stiff and not moving, which also isn't good because then the horse has to use other muscles to accomplish what you're asking it to do. So there's the whole like physical discomfort or physical limitation in your horse's body that you really don't know is building up until you start asking
Yeah.
the horse, and so just the physical benefits. And when you keep the horse limber and moving freely, it helps prevent injuries, foot and leg joint and ligament injuries, because they need that suspension and that cushioning, that shock absorption, and they lose it for
Yeah.
whatever reason, whatever's going on. And so if you can keep them loose and limber, it's gonna help their longevity too. So as an owner, you can learn some things to help to do that. You
Yeah.
know, not
I
rely on the massage therapist and the chiropractor and the vet. You did
yeah.
you really don't want to have to rely on the vet. You want to help
Right.
as much as you can to keep your horse limber and healthy without having to call the vet.
Right.
If there's any
Um,
vets out there, that I'm not saying don't call the vet. I'm saying when you need to call the vet, call the vet. You know.
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
I have a question,
Mhm.
and I don't know where this is gonna go. Sometimes I start meandering, and who knows where it lands. But
Okay,
um,
let me get a sip of coffee. Okay, go
um,
ahead. Wait,
so
wait a minute.
I
I might need something a little stronger before this one. Okay, go.
in that bottle. So I kind of align with these horses that you talk about having resistance. because I feel like I'm that person that is a horse like that. And I feel like my nervous system is kind of always jacked up. So even when Elise was there working with the horses, sometimes I didn't directly work with the horses too much. I was dropping into a lot of different people sessions and walking
Yeah.
around a lot. And then sometimes I was working with the horses. But I found it personally very difficult for me to settle down enough, and I'm sure that you encounter this a lot. We do too with horses that we work with. But I have horses that are like this too, and one in particular that I'm thinking of, Elise, Luna. Luna has sleep deprivation, and like I guess my question is, what would be your best advice for two parties to get this sorted out? Like, where do you begin with it? Because
You're a Luna.
I'm a Luna, and Luna's a Luna,
And
and
so two Lunas
she's
together.
she's she's a really she's super sweet, very emphatic about doing positive reinforcement, just a great problem solver and everything. But she
Hypervigilant.
is very hyper vigilant, and
Mhm.
when I interact with her, I feel like when she was younger she used to really like it, and now I feel like it's not, she struggles to settle enough to enjoy it, the
Yeah.
process.
Mhm. Well, that hypervigilance, it's you can, like, it's physical and mental, right? Emotional, it's
Yeah.
connected, right? And horses that won't go to sleep, lay down and go to sleep, it's because they're hypervigilant. They don't feel safe, and so
Yeah.
And I think
mean,
that's true with her. I think sometimes, pain can be involved, but in her case, we've ruled out as many of
yeah, you
those things.
ruled out any specific physical
Yeah,
issues, right? You've
yeah,
ruled those out as much as you can.
yeah,
um, so I guess a couple things come to mind. One is, a lot of times you've rolled out things in the feet and legs and injuries and things like that. But
mhm,
sometimes then if the horse isn't right, then I mean she's sound. She's just
yeah.
very
She's
tense.
sound.
Yeah. So like in my mind, it's up in the body and the nervous system. It's just that super hypervigilance, which makes them tense and which tightens up the core muscles, for example. And then when the core muscles tighten up, then it tightens up the hind end, and then the pole and atlas gets tight. And it's not anything specific necessarily, but with the body work, you're working with their nervous system. With this type of body work, you're working with their nervous system, so you can get them to internally just let go to a certain degree. But it's hard. It's hard when you're working on your own horse, even if you're not, like, I'm not hyper vigilant, but I had your horse, you have an agenda with your horse. So I had trouble working on my horses, my two Morgans, the whole time that I had them, because I had an agenda, even though I didn't know I had an agenda with them.
Yeah,
So you can't have an agenda because the horse picks up on it, and then they internally brace against what you're trying to do. So
I
I
always have an agenda.
yeah, I know, especially with your own horse, right? Like
Yeah,
it's easier
I'm
to
like,
let go
we're
of.
gonna bond. Are you
It's
ready?
yeah, yeah. Are you ready? Yeah, right. That's it. That's it. Or that's an agenda, right? So fortunately, early on, I had courses at my home in Fairfield, and so I'd have students work on my horses, and it was great because they could get a lot of releases out of them. But with my horses, I had an agenda, and they had an agenda with me too. So it's helpful to practice on other horses. Like, don't, okay, I want to get this, so I'm going to go practice on Luna. No, practice on other horses, and then you learn how to do the body work without an agenda. I mean, it just happens organically. You stop thinking about what you're doing, and then you end up out of your mind. And that's not the goal, though. The goal is to not have an agenda. The goal isn't to train people to not think.
Right.
Anyways, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So, the more you practice on other horses, then you start to learn how to do it, and then it's easier to work on your own horse. But yeah.
And I think, Jim always talks about how with the physical tension, they layer it like an onion, and we have to
Mhm.
peel those layers away
Yeah.
constantly. And I think the emotional aspect of that is the same thing. We got to keep peeling
Mhm.
that emotional layer of tension away. with the work. And maybe you might do the bladder meridian one day. Maybe you might go out another day
Yeah,
and do a
do it.
couple movement techniques
Yeah.
instead of going out there and saying, I'm going to do all the things. Just do what she's, accepting and willing to do, and just slowly just keep peeling those layers away. It could take quite a while
Yeah.
for her to
Uh,
be able to, because, all the emotions, are stored in the pole as well. And the
mhm.
pole is like, it affects the entire
That's the most,
body.
yeah. Mhm. So
So, yes.
what I found myself doing with my horses, I would go, I drove them and trail rode them, but I would go to harness them up or tack them up. And it was easier when I was harnessing them up because it takes longer. So I'd go and I'd be harnessing up, and then I'd get to the hind, putting, on the hind end, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do a little sacrum float here. And then I do a little sacrum float, 5 minutes. Okay, she'd release something. Wow, she released something, and then I go back to harnessing her up again. So that got me out of my head about the body work. I was there to harness them up, but I snuck in a sacrum float on her and snuck in a leg release while I was cleaning her feet. Okay, I clean her foot. Okay, oh wow, relax your shoulder. So I didn't have an agenda then. I just, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it
so
does. And I feel like that would work really well for me,
Mhm.
like me and my unsettled ways.
Yeah. Well, you seem settled on the outside, but on the inside, maybe not. You're
Oh
you're
yeah,
saying
really good
so.
at hiding.
Okay. So yeah, just
Like
go
literally.
out like, okay, I'm gonna groom you, and we're gonna do whatever we're gonna do. But okay, I'll just do a little bladder meridian. Okay. And just do a little 5 minutes, and then you get a little release response or something. Okay, let's move on and get you ready for whatever we're gonna do, tack you up, do a little something else. When you're cleaning their foot, support the leg and allow them to relax the shoulder as you set it down. Relax the scapula so that their scapula drops a little bit, and then do it in that, little bits and little chunks like that. But
That
just
might be,
being aware that it's hard to work on your own horse.
Hmm.
and it might
That's
just
really
be that
good.
she can only, it could be that she's only wanting to let go only so much at a time.
Mhm.
Right.
Kind of
Makes
like,
sense.
Jessie, you might be able to only be in that relaxed state, to be able to do some of the Masterson method for a few minutes, and that's fine. We
Mhm.
just do what we can do. It
It's really
doesn't
good
all have to
advice.
be done at once.
Yeah.
It's great advice too for positive reinforcement. If you have a horse who is struggling with relaxation, you can do positive
And
reinforcement for
tiny,
a little bit and then go back to,
tiny
say, the
bits, and
method or
yeah,
whatever it is that you're doing.
We're
yeah,
always
just
trying to get relaxation in everything they do.
hmm
We want them to be relaxed jumpers,
uh
relaxed ridden work, relaxed, all of it. So it is working against that, but
yeah,
it's key in there for all of it.
yeah. Did you, Elise? Did you get to work on Luna at the clinic or on
I,
the course? Okay, good.
I
That's excellent.
did. I did get to work with her. She definitely has a really good internal brace response.
hmm
She's really good at it.
hmm
I mean, most horses are, but you could really tell with her. And
hmm
so it was just a matter, everything just needs to be slowed way down.
And the way down, yeah. So like if say
Yeah.
Elise is working on Luna, Elise doesn't have an agenda with Luna, and if she takes her time and just really waits for the horse to really let go internally on her own, then it's going to be more effective. But when you're working on Luna, it'll have to be in smaller bits, probably increments. But
And,
Yeah.
I'm yeah, sorry.
out in her pasture with her herd mates too,
Mhm,
is I think would be a really good place for her as well, where she feels,
mhm.
safe with
Hmm.
the herd, even though
Yeah,
she's the one who's used to being vigilant and watching things, at
mhm,
least for a few moments, maybe she'll allow someone else to,
mhm.
look over things while you just do a few minutes in the pasture even.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, and it'll surprise you sometimes, I mean, I've had quite a few people that have either emailed me or told me later after working on the horse or after when their horse is in a weekend course and they're getting a lot of body work over the weekend that their horse lay down and went to sleep and and they've never seen it lay down before, on its
Hmm.
own. So I'm not saying this fixes that, but it may surprise you at some point, that they feel safe and relaxed enough to, and being relaxed is feeling safe for a horse. So that they feel relaxed enough to lay down and sleep, because I've, quite a few times people have said my horse never lays down, and they saw them out in the pasture laying down. So, but no promises on that.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just saying that sometimes it'll surprise you
Yeah.
that they'll let go on a deep enough level in their nervous system to, feel safe and
Because that's, I think
Yeah.
you've done a great job of really minimizing. She doesn't have a stressful life, but for
Mhm.
her it is. I mean,
Yeah.
her perspective is it is.
And she's not herd bound. She's not, she
Mhm.
she likes coming. I actually right now I'm bringing her into a small paddock that's right adjacent to everybody else, and
Mhm.
she loves coming in there at night because she
Yeah.
likes to have that kind of separate. She's with everybody but not.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm bringing her in is because she actually fell down and cut her leg recently, so I'm very concerned about it, and I want to do whatever I can to help her with that situation.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's that agenda.
Yeah.
Well,
Get better sleep.
we all want to do that all the time, right? But it's being able to let go of that while you were actually working on the horse.
Yeah. I'm gonna start talking
So
myself.
have Jessie do the bladder meridian. Oh, you're Jessie. I'm sorry.
I'm like, wait,
Shawna.
Have me do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
it. You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
I'm recognizing you more and more. So I know we've met at Expo somewhere.
Yeah, we
I
have some.
I have a hard, like anybody, a lot of people, I have a hard time remembering names, but then faces will start to come back to me, like, oh yeah, I think I recognize
Yeah.
you now. But you should be working on doing the bladder meridian on her horse.
Okay.
okay.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart thing to kind of have people recognize. It's another way of helping
Mhm.
people to recognize the subtle tension they might be bringing to it
Right.
when they think they're not.
Yeah.
I think it's all such good help and good advice for people, and a place that everybody should be learning more about. I just think
Mhm.
if you're going to be, you really want to be a partner for your
Mhm.
horse, you need to understand more about your horse than what they can do for you. You know,
Yeah. Mhm.
and I think this is really a great
Yeah,
seg-
we all want that. I think we all want to do more for our horses. It's just that we don't know all the tools yet, or we don't have all the
yes.
tools. So yeah.
And so many people weren't brought up in as they've learned in horses, they've been taught how to manage the horse versus how to truly,
Hmm.
create a partnership with their horse, but how
Yeah.
to ride, which meant just getting the ridden part or whatever. It's just a
Yeah,
shift
I
in
mean,
the
I
side.
I was that way too before I started to learn how to do this, Estella. I was
Yeah.
like that too, like I didn't know
Yeah.
the things my horse needed. I thought it was okay. They have hay, they have water,
Yeah.
and I ride them.
Yeah. And I got
It was
good
really
boots
simple.
and good
It was really
saddle
simple.
and
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
made sure the
Yeah.
saddle fit, but I didn't have any. When I was grooming hunter jumpers when I started to notice these little behaviors in the horse when therapists were working on them, massage therapists or chiropractors, and that's what got me interested. It was those, what's the horse is feeling something there that that and they're showing some subtle responses and some not so subtle responses. That's what got me interested, and then I
Yeah.
realized, well, there's more to the horse, than just um, doing stuff with them. You
Yes.
know,
It's interesting. I think the grooming is when you're talking hunter jumpers and
Mhm.
sport horses,
Mhm.
the grooms really see a lot and can have a good relationship with it, but sometimes
Yeah,
it's like we just need them in the ring. I don't care how
Mhm.
you get the clipped or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and so
uh,
it's a good place to be able to stop and see and notice all those emotions.
yeah.
That's kind of a great way to do it. I think that was
You
interesting.
see them when you see them when they're not on the job. You see the horses. You see them in the
Yeah.
stall. You see them in the paddock. You see them,
Yeah.
when they're
All
being
the,
horses. Yeah.
yeah. I love that. Well,
I have another question.
okay.
It's not as hard.
Okay.
Maybe.
I know
Um,
that last one took a lot of thinking.
take a drink. What do you feel would be if you had to pick one? I don't know if you can pick one, but is there a memorable or amazing story? Like, what is the most amazing thing that you've encountered with the Masterson method and what it did for a horse?
Um, I don't know. It's I've worked on so many horses, and probably the biggest thing for me is what the horse will let go, just doing the how light the work can be, and how much they'll let go. Almost the lighter you're going, and the more the internally they'll just let go. They'll just go into a huge cat stretch, just by doing nothing. And I think, I mean, there's a few key things where I recognize, wow, this, when you release this part of the horse, how much improvement it'll make in their movement. But back to the first thing, how little it takes for them to bring them aware to what's going on in their body and to not brace against something. You're doing the bladder meridian and you're looking for subtle responses, and the lighter you go, the better, and the more time you take, the better that they'll start letting their guard down and releasing. But what I found was really interesting is if I'm teaching or doing a demonstration, at an expo, and I'm showing the bladder meridian and how light you go and waiting for the release, and then I'll stop and I'll be talking to the student or whoever's at the demo, and I'm just kind of pointing, my attention's off the horse, but I might be pointing to the lumbosacral area or the sacroiliac area, and the horse will do this huge cat stretch. And I'm not even working on the horse. I'm just talking about where the horse might be holding tension. And you'll get these huge releases. And they're so tuned into their environment. That's how they survive. That if you're even looking at it, and pointing at it and thinking about it, and the horse gives this huge release, like that's a huge wake-up call, right? No matter how light you think you are, you could be going lighter. And just taking and not worrying about, I'm not even worrying about the horse releasing. I'm just talking about it, and the horse starts releasing better than when I was doing it,
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest aha moments for me, other than, physically, I remember was working on my partner, Bill Stanton, down in Wellington. He was a vet tech for Dr. Steele's practice for 20 years. So he was like Dr. Steele's.
Dr. Steele.
Yeah.
He
So
worked
Bill
with
was
John.
yeah. Bill was Dr. Steele's, personal vet tech for 20 years. And so Bill knew a lot, but he wanted to go off and do body work, on horses. He was inspired. There was an old horse chiropractor who came from New Zealand, who lived in California, that Dr. Steele's practice, I think Dr. Ober would bring him out to the shows on the East Coast in Lexington to adjust their horses. But this guy worked, he was an inspiration for me because I watch him work, and he used very long lever forceful techniques, but he really knew how to read the horse. Like he would make this huge adjustment on the pole and the neck, and the whole thing, you heard like 5 pops, and then he would step back to see what the horse had to say. He called it step back and see what the horse has to say. And he'd wait and let the horse feel what just happened, and the nervous system to feel what's going on. And one of the signs that he got a good adjustment was the horse would start yawning repeatedly if he got a good adjustment. And so that's one of the things that got me interested in this. But anyways, Bill was inspired by the same guy, and Bill wanted to do body work. So he left Dr. Steele's practice to do body work. And I think I remember where I was going with this. Oh yeah. All right. So when Bill left Dr. Steele's practice, he immediately had like hundreds of clients. He was worried if he's going to make it, doing body work on his own, but he immediately had all these clients. And at the same time, I was down in Wellington trying to build my body work business when I stopped grooming, one horse at a time. So I was I remember I maybe was doing 8 or 10 horses a week at the time. And Bill all of a sudden had 200 clients. And so I went to work for Bill because he was swamped. And it was interesting because there's a lot of competition between body workers, and for him to have somebody work for him, because it just doesn't always work out, but it worked out really well. But anyways, the point is, one of Bill's clients he was a trainer, and he had a small Grand Prix jumper, and he worked on him every week down in Wellington. And one week Bill couldn't make it, so he said, "Jim, will you work on this horse?" And he said, "Sure." So I worked on this little Grand Prix jumper, and I was spending time in the lumbar area where the psoas muscles attach under the lumbar spine, and I was getting a lot of responses. So I waited, and at one point the horse gave this huge sigh, and his back just came up, as the core muscles let go. That's when I figured out, the importance of the core muscles. That experience, and this is an example of little aha moments. And so the next week, Bill still wasn't able to. So when I let go, I made sure that hind end was really moving. The pelvis needs to move, the lumbosacral junction like this, and like this and like this, for the hind end to really work, together, fully. And so the next week, Bill couldn't make it either. So I went back, and the trainer, who I didn't know him that well, he says, "What'd you do to my horse?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh." That those moments come up a lot, when you're working on horses. And I said, well, he released a lot here. He had a lot going on in the pole and neck, but we really got the hind end moving. And he says, "Oh, that's it." He says, "My horse is jumping really, really well. He really knows the difference." So that's when I got that the importance of that junction and of the core muscles to keeping the hindmen moving properly. So that was an aha moment, just one amongst many when you're working physically, trying to improve movement in the horse. So that would be an example of physically aha moment. But the other one was an example of how the horse's nervous system works and how, yeah. But, somebody asked me when I was telling that story once at a class, well, did the guy hire you now instead of Bill? And I said, no, because they were poker buddies. And so they play poker together. So, and I wasn't looking to take Bill's client, because Bill's clients are my clients, but anyways.
And the big bonus there is, and this is important, we just never stop learning,
Oh,
that
you
we
never
keep
stop
learning,
learning.
and everything can teach us something new. And I love that it became really a pivotal moment for you to recognize a piece that could really help them.
Yeah, and you really do. I mean, everybody says you never stop learning with horses, is it, but you really don't, and what I've learned, the most recent lately is when I really stopped working on jumpers in 2013. I stopped going to Wellington and to the shows, to work on horses, and I focused more on teaching and running the business. Yeah, but since then I've slowed down more and more and more working on the horse. And really, I didn't know lightness and how to really go slow and light. I thought I did, and it was working, but I don't. Now I know how. I've really slowed down now when I work on a horse. I don't have any agenda. I don't have to get this horse done in a certain period of time. And it's so much more effective when you go slower and give the horse time to process stuff, whether it's training or releasing tension in the body.
Yeah.
So I've learned how much agenda we do have in our mind, and really letting go of that more and more, and just being a
We
blank
say,
slate.
we'll say, slow down, you'll go faster.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, slow down, you'll go
Yeah.
faster.
Let it to
Mhm.
go. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Just
Yeah, and
slow
we
down.
always say less is more, but now I'm saying even more less is more. And another one, when you talk about um, whether it's the chicken or the egg or what, and physically in the body, everything's interconnected. So you just have to pick a place to start. It's almost always never just one thing. And so,
Yeah.
if you're trying to figure out in your head, is it chicken or the egg? Well, you let go of that. You work on everything, the whole horse,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like
That's
that
a
too.
really good point.
And
Yeah.
especially with the Masterson method, one of my favorite things about it is wherever your hands are on the horse, they're everywhere else at the same time.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
that's what's really fascinating, I think, about the Masterson method. And I also really appreciate, Jim talks about the more we learn, we feel like the less we know, but as we learn, we change things. And I see the Masterson method that it slowly shifts here and there as Jim finds things that are more effective, like going later, going slower.
Mhm.
And even with a whole brand new course, that they started just a few years ago with Light to the Core, and it's just all light touch work. So I really appreciate that the Masterson method does, evolve into improving things that
Mhm.
helps us help the horse better.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stay the same. The horses don't stay the same. We learn more and we do better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a big part of that, I think, of learning is like letting go of the need to be right. Because all of us as horse people wanna want to fix things, and our ego starts to get in the way, and once you let go of that need to be right and be willing to accept that, wow, maybe this is better, or maybe that also works, well, that then you open yourself to learning, and also not trying to pin, not trying, not yeah, getting out of your head a little bit when you're trying to figure out what's going on with the horse, because we're looking for one problem, like what's the problem, and it's usually not the problem, it's the bigger picture, You know,
Right.
this is connected to that's connected to that, and you can pick a place to start. You know, but don't limit yourself to, oh, that's the problem. You
Right.
know, be
'Cause it's a
willing to
symptom.
be willing to be wrong. You know,
Yeah.
or not right. Like, oh, they need to be right.
Yeah.
It's just hard to do as humans. You know,
Yeah.
because we naturally want to make things better all the time, and sometimes that gets in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, go slower to go. When you go slower, you go faster.
Yeah.
Be
Just
okay. You maybe we could also see be stupider to be smarter.
that's it.
That
I
works
don't know.
too.
I don't know if that one works. Maybe we'll stick with it.
And we try to remind people, you know, they think we know everything. It's like I've learned stuff all the time. I
Yeah.
learn more than I don't know all the time.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think it's fabulous. I think be stupider
Be
to learn
smarter.
more.
Be stupid. Well, that
Be
makes sense. Yeah.
This was really good.
This
Thank
is
you.
great, you guys. I
Yeah.
think that we want to come see you in person. At least we can't wait to see you in Florida next year, or even have you back here. I think it would be fabulous. And
I would love to.
I appreciate all that you guys are doing, and really respect the time, the energy, the dedication and the commitment that has gone into this, and
Well,
the science.
we're all in this together. That's why we're having this conversation. We're all on the same
Exactly.
track.
We're shoulder to shoulder trying to just help, you know, the horses have a better life and to thrive
Yeah.
in the lives that they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, you guys.
Thank you so
I cannot
much.
thank you enough, and it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it
Thanks
has
for
been
having
nice.
us.
Good
Yeah.
job, Elise. Good job setting
Yeah.
this up.
Oh, well, it wasn't just me. Jessie and Shawna, you know, they asked and I said, absolutely. And I'll
Yeah.
invite Jim too. So we decided to get the
Oh, yeah.
man himself in on this.
More than nice.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, good.
Thank you.